Welcome to Exploring Santa Cruz, a bi-weekly program on KSQD, 89.5, 89.7, and 90.7 FM. I'm your host, Mathilde Rand. My guests are Michel Singher and Fred DeJarlais. The topic of conversation is Espressivo, a small, intense orchestra. Michel Singher is artistic director of Espressivo. Born in Paris, he fled Nazi occupation with his family, settling eventually in New York. Coming from a highly musical family, he was not encouraged to pursue music professionally. After graduating magna cum laude in history and literature from Harvard, he chose music after all. He trained and worked in Europe for 12 years, where he eventually became first conductor at various opera houses. Back in the US, he held 2 academic positions and was music director of several orchestras. He moved to Santa Cruz County in 2005, where he has delighted many people with the establishment of Espressivo and its performances. Fred DeJarlais is a retired urban planner with interest in both tech and the arts. He's past president of the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at UCSC. He was on the board of Santa Cruz Opera Society, past president of the California Map Society, and current publisher of their cartographic journal. He notes he was recruited by a former member of the Espressivo board for his spreadsheet and organizational skills, and not for any classical music knowledge. He has been on the Espressivo board for 5 years, served a term as president, and is now the treasurer. Welcome, Michel and Fred.
Thank you, Mathilde.
Thank you.
To be here.
Why don't we start telling the audience what Espressivo is and how it got started?
It's a collection of instrumentalists varying from large chamber music size, 9 to 10 players, to occasionally busting the budget at 20-something players. I think that makes it a small orchestra. It's always intense, whatever the size. How did it get started? It's in the fogs of history, I'm not sure. I had retired 9 years ago. Unretired myself to do this. Somehow it happened, and it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'm very fortunate to work with excellent colleagues who can stand working with me, and vice versa. We have a good time.
Anything to add, Fred? What do you remember of the origins?
Well, I joined perhaps 5 or 6 years ago. The most important thing I've learned is what goes into the work of putting a concert together. One of those was just how important the conductor really is. I knew so little about classical music. I thought it was all about the orchestra and not about the leader. And I've changed my mind.
Fooled you.
And you're still there.
Still there. I've had a habit over my career, unfortunately, putting my hand up as a volunteer. Started with basic training in the Army. I was recruited, as you mentioned, for my spreadsheet and organizational skills. Well, I eventually, just by putting my hand up, became vice president of the group, and then president, and now into the frying pan as treasurer.
I remember. I'm the treasurer of KSQD, so I know. So we talked about it is an intense, small orchestra. So how do the program and the players get selected?
I select them.
On what basis?
Let's start with the players. Some of them I knew from having conducted in the region here for several years before starting Espressivo. Many of them played with me at West Bay Opera, where I conducted a lot. Then they recommend each other, word spreads. Mm-hmm. We have to recruit, given that there's so much music going on in Santa Cruz and many of the same players, we have to recruit early. In fact, we're almost behind the curve now for recruiting for next season because the players get snatched up. Mm-hmm. As to the programs, it's one of my favorite things. I try to put together things that both harmonize with each other and compensate for each other. I'm too prone to comparing things to a meal, but it's like putting things together with an appetizer and a main course and a dessert sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But they also have to be within the restrictions of how many players we have for a particular concert, and the timing has to come out. So there's quite a bit of thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I admit, sometimes I hear a piece on the radio and I think, what is that? Oh, we could play that. And then we do. We've played a large range of repertory, really, from Baroque to living composers.
I think many members of our audience suggest to me that that's something that they really appreciate, is the selections that Michel brings to us. Just great variety and inventiveness, and I think our audience really appreciates that.
I've been at 2 concerts. I fully enjoyed it, and I did see almost a juxtaposition of the before and after the break. Do you do that on purpose? You want to jar people a little bit with beautiful, flowing classical music with some other...
Make them think it's safe, and then they realize,
what did we get ourselves into?
I guess that's true. Last concert we played Haydn, and then we played Janacek and Stravinsky.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't always work out that way, but yes, there is that. I'd like to ease people in,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe give them something to chew on,
And to think about.
and then dessert.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that the second piece was actually originally written for a one-handed pianist. Is
That's
that
right.
correct? But she
right.
played it with 2 hands.
There is a printed version with 2 hands.
Oh, there is.
She wasn't really cheating.
No, I understand that. But why would somebody compose a one-handed piano piece?
Because they got their right arm shot off in World War I.
Uh-huh.
There are 2 such cases. The most prominent one is Paul Wittgenstein, relative of the philosophers,
Mm-hmm.
who commissioned a piece from Ravel, the Concerto for Left Hand Alone, which is a standard of the repertoire. The one we played is much more esoteric, much less often played.
Mm-hmm.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
It's a great
And
piece.
so when I read it in the program, I was astonished that somebody would write a piece for one hand.
Well, the composer Janacek was very skeptical at first. He said to the pianist Ottokar Hollemann, he said, "But you can't dance on one leg."
Actually, that's not true.
I can't even dance on 2 legs, so I wouldn't know.
I actually recently saw a young kid, I think on America's Got Talent, danced on one leg. It was beautiful. And so was the piece. But even though she played it with 2 hands, the piece was very, very interesting.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. So we know now how the program and the players get selected. Now, do you always use the same players?
It depends partly on the instrumentation and
Mm-hmm.
whom we need for what concert. But we have mainly repeats, yes. We have very faithful cohort. And they're not always available, and so we reach beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
And the piece you heard, in fact, was the first time that we used a tenor tuba, so he was not a repeat.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that happen. But
Yeah.
basically it's a core.
Yeah, I see that. Are there any programs that were either particularly well received or very popular with the players?
I get positive feedback from the players generally.
Uh-huh.
Fred says that the Mahler Fourth is played a lot.
Yes, I usually post the videos to YouTube, and I get an idea of how often a particular video is played and how much they are accessed. So the Mahler is very high up. Most recently, the clarinet concerto, Copland's, yeah, the concerto got a lot of playtime on YouTube.
Yeah. Now, since you mentioned on YouTube, do you know by heart the URL for the YouTube? How do people get to the YouTube to listen to the concerts?
The easiest way is just to go into your search box and type YouTube, and it will bring up, probably right at the top of the selections, the YouTube. And then over on the left-hand side, you could probably just enter Espressivo or Espressivo Santa Cruz. There are other groups with Espressivo in their name, so if you could narrow it down that could take you directly to all of the videos that we have posted in the last 6 or 7 years.
Excellent. Could also people access to it through your website, espressorg.org?
We don't currently have that functionality.
Okay. Go to YouTube and then look up Espressivo Santa Cruz, and there should be several videos coming up.
Yes.
I haven't even asked you, why did you choose the word espressivo for the orchestra?
Espressivo is a common musical term. It's Italian. Obviously, it means expressive. And somehow we got into mind games about small, intense, and espresso.
Mm-hmm.
And we went from espresso to espressivo. We have a wonderful logo.
Yes, you do.
We ran an international competition for logo, and the winner, who I think was from Ceylon or from Bangladesh, came up with this logo, a little bit at our suggestion, of a coffee cup that's steaming, and the steam forms into a violin.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful logo. And actually, I use it for the promo, and we'll put it on our website.
Oh, thank you.
And,
I make a habit right before our concerts to make sure that local coffee houses get our flyer.
Oh.
There's a strong connection, and I think people really recognize that when they see our logo
Uh-huh.
and our name.
And we're selling T-shirts now.
Yes, we are.
You
With the
do,
logo on it.
With the logo on it. It's beautiful. Well, let me remind people that they're listening to Exploring Santa Cruz on KSQD 89.5, 89.7, and 90.7. My name is Mathilde Rand, and my guests are Michel Singher and Fred DeJarlais. And our topic of conversation is Espressivo, a small, intense orchestra. Now, you can't do it by yourself. So who is on your supporting team around the concert and whatever else? You know, you have the treasurer here, but I'm sure you have lots of other people helping.
We have very few other people helping,
Uh-huh.
and so they work very hard. We have a board of, 6 members now?
7, including us.
7, including you and me.
Yes.
And they do a lot because a lot happens.
Mm-hmm.
From trying to get advertisements for the program to actually handling the box office to what am I not mentioning?
Well, I have a checklist that runs to probably 15 or 20 separate tasks prior to the concert, and then right before the concert, during the day of the concert, I might have another 20 or so items.
Mm-hmm.
And then also we have a dozen activities that are separate really from the concert production themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're a 501c3, so I'm right in the middle of producing reports to the state of California and to the IRS,
Right.
year-end reports. So there's a lot of activities just to keep this organization running.
You could always use more people then.
You took the words right out of my mouth. We're constantly trying to recruit board members.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they knew how much fun we have.
I thought you guys were having fun. I met Caroline, I met Fred, I met you, and of course Jenny. And then there was another young woman helping out.
Rubina.
Yes. And so that's probably just 5 people of the board. But the interaction between people is just very pleasant. And they made me feel welcome. I actually stood by the door and welcomed people and guided them to the line for the tickets, for credit cards, and for checks and cash. And other people brought them in. I thought there was a very pleasant atmosphere. So if people want to help Fred, should they go to the website?
I think they should just come directly to me on my email.
Okay, so why don't you tell us your email?
That's fred.dejarlais, S as in Sam, @gmail.com.
Okay, I'm going to repeat that so you check if I understood it correctly. FRED for Fred, dot DEJARLAIS, DeJarlais,
Yes.
@gmail.com. And then you will plug them into the organization and
Yes.
have as just much fun as I had and as you have. Because you're not giving up, right?
Well, not yet. But we're both up there in age, so there will come a point where we find it not possible to
Right.
continue this level of activity.
Do you always have the concerts at the church on Rojas Street?
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. For the last several seasons, we've had our concerts, yes, exclusively at the Santa Cruz Community Church on Rojas Street in
Santa Cruz.
Cruz, yeah.
It's sort of behind the Harbor High School.
Yeah.
And it's a very accommodating place. We have very good acoustics, huge parking lot,
And good staff to work with.
and good staff to work with at the church.
Well, we're talking a little bit about the different aspects of the concert, and of course, one is the audience. So, can you tell us a little bit, Fred, about Espressivo's audience and your connections with the audience?
Well, I do keep track of our ticket sales, and overwhelmingly, we attract, probably not surprisingly, a senior audience. Probably 90 to 95% of our audience purchase senior tickets. We've tried in the past to attract a younger audience. We have made a very attractive price for students, but by and large, we try to accommodate a senior audience. And to that end, we've been able to receive substantial donations from the Rotary in past years that help us provide transportation for seniors from assisted living facilities here in Santa Cruz. We also have made an effort to attract an audience from Watsonville. We held a concert in Watsonville. We have not been really successful in that area.
A number of people are from the Lifelong Learning group, OLLI.
We do an ad trade with OLLI, so an ad for our organization appears in their monthly newsletter, and many of our patrons, of course, are also members of OLLI.
Yeah. And also the Opera Society, I
Yeah,
understand?
Santa Cruz Opera Society has been a consistent supporter of Espressivo, both audience attendance and donations. So we're very, very pleased at this connection with SCOSI.
And you, Michel, you participate in short courses in classical music at OLLI. Do you still do that?
I did for a while. Before the pandemic, I was giving kind of introductory lectures. That's gone by the wayside.
So no more presentations at SCOSI or OLLI?
Not at present, and not in the last 4 or 5 years, maybe.
Maybe it'll come again. Now, talking about audiences and getting younger audiences in, do you or are you interested in doing outreach to schools or other community organizations to educate people about classical music?
Long sigh. For one thing, I don't think we've had the span, the bandwidth to do that with our facilities. Also, I'm going to be a very old man here. I'm skeptical. I mean, I do occasionally run across young people who are eager to become musicians and who play. But I think most of our sister music presenters play mainly to older audiences. The optimistic view is that the people who are now young will become old and will become audiences. But I think there's maybe a generational question historically also. I don't think our culture in general right now is very humanistically inclined and maybe less receptive to the arts than they used to be, or at least what I would define as the arts, being an old fogey.
Now, when I watch TV sometimes, I see that, especially in England and in the Netherlands, I mean, there are a lot of young people, general audiences, and they're rocking to all the classical music. And then I forgot the name of this Dutch conductor. Maybe you know him. He was from Maastricht. And those are very, very popular, and they have it on TV, and a lot of young people come. And what they also do is, I would say, classify, make more classical certain popular music. And, of course, the young people recognize the music, but they, at the same time, get a taste of how it could sound in a classical environment. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. Fascinating. It's like a family picnic, basically.
Wow. So the old folk in me says, is it still classical music? Just because it's a tune that's been put to some kind of rock setting doesn't make it classical music. I mean, a classical composition is a mindset and an entity unto itself and an aesthetic, and it's not just a tune. Harumph.
That's a whole conversation for another time, right?
Let's do it.
Should we do that? I'm interested, like I said, when I was there, and especially the supporting staff, I just thought that there was, besides rehearsals and the concerts where everybody is together, and I saw that a lot of the musicians, after they had played, they stayed and listened to the next performance, and with lots of enthusiasm. I'm not sure if they're there during the rehearsals or they just want to see it in the concert. But I got the impression that there's much more to Espressivo than rehearsals and concerts. Are there activities that are happening? Or is it just the music itself that makes people so kind to each other and interested in what the other people are doing? There was a really pleasant atmosphere.
I'm glad you picked up on the vibe, which is, as I say, a late in life blessing to me. No, it's mainly we do what we do. I should mention, perhaps, so people get some sense of the process, that the first time, our concerts are on Sunday afternoons, and the first time we get together the Thursday night before that, we rehearse Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evenings, and that's it. Obviously, I study the scores, I get my ideas about them, I edit parts out of which the players play to some extent. I put in my thought. The players get the parts 6 weeks, 2 months ahead of time, now very often on iPads, and they practice at home, and then we get together at the last minute, and touch wood, it comes together.
It's amazing because it sounds so perfect. So together.
I'm glad we fooled you.
This is April, so this is April
Yes.
Fool's month, but I think you like to do that. But 6 weeks to 2 months doesn't appear to me a long time for people to practice. So they're obviously very competent.
I'd like to think they're the best professionals, or some of the best professionals in the Bay Area.
Mhm.
And we draw from north is Oakland, and as far south as Carmel,
Mhm.
Salinas.
And some of the bios are just extraordinary, where some of these musicians have performed.
Mhm.
We have one board member who's mentioned to me a few times at the first rehearsal, she is just overwhelmed by how good they sound even at the first rehearsal.
They're very experienced
So
musicians.
who needs a conductor? Yeah.
Yeah, and then and then you as conductor just meld it all together, and in 3 days,
Try to
Thursday,
polish.
Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday, they're ready for one concert, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, for one concert,
Yeah.
we all deplore that. We wish we could repeat it as long as we've done the work.
We've done that once,
We've
haven't
done it
we?
once.
We've
We-
repeated it once.
We played a concert in Mountain View in a lovely performing arts center there, and we didn't draw an audience, basically, and that was partly misunderstanding as to who was going to do publicity.
Right.
But it wasn't encouraging for us to put in the effort to do that again.
Well, you're doing some more publicity because because as an organization, you do need money, and you're going to do a fundraising concert that's coming up soon, right? On Thursday, April 18th
Yes.
at the United Methodist Church, 250 California Street, Santa Cruz. And the program sounds terrific. People can go for more information to Espress, ESPRESSORCH, expressorg.org, for more information about your benefit concert that you're doing for yourself.
I think I should mention, Mathilde, that will not be an orchestra concert.
It's not an
So
orchestra
that's
concert.
Two very excellent singers,
Yes.
and I'll accompany them.
But it's a fundraiser for...
It's a
Yes.
fundraiser for
For the
Espressivo.
Good. We have exactly 1 minute. One quick final comment from you.
If you don't know us, come know us.
Oh, that's a good idea. Listeners, this was Exploring Santa Cruz on KSKD. And Fred, thank you for being here. Michel, delighted. And thank you for fooling us all with great music.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for inviting us. It's been delightful.